Um,
Whoa, no, that was in my ears. Sorry.
We'll probably just start with some introductions. So I'll pass over to Detty to introduce herself.
Thank you very much. So Detty Tyler from East Riding Voluntary Action Services, and I'm here in my capacity looking after the kind of youth coalitions across East Riding and also the youth volunteering projects that we run. So that's myself in charge of tech. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it all goes well.
I'm sure it will, Detty. And Darren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Darren Law, work for Youth Family Support Service, youth worker by trade, 20 years practice now, mainly office based now. I come out and support all the voluntary sector across the whole county. Thank you.
First one of the evening of forgetting to unmute myself. I've got it out of the bag, I'm done. I'm Nicola Dixon. I work at Junction in Gull, which is an art centre and cinema, and we run youth provision 4 evenings a week with various arts projects. So all of my experience I'm sharing with you tonight is pretty much arts related. So I'm really interested to hear kind of other perspectives coming in as well. So feel free to chip in. I can't say I've got answers to everything, nor is Detty or Darren necessarily, but we have got kind of experience on the Zoom call as well from all of you. So really value your input into this as well, and that's really what's going to make this really rich, is you guys kind of chipping in your experiences as well from the different young people you work with and the different organisations you work for as well. So really looking forward to that. I can see you're already really great with this, so if you're not speaking, if you pop yourself on mute, if you need to check in or ask anything, if you pop it in the chat, or use one of the reactions, or put your hand up, or physically put your hand up, or give a thumbs up or somewhere, we know just to kind of stop and come to you. That's if you want to chip something in or you've got a question about something. Just one thing, if you've got another device that you can use, like a phone or a tablet, if you could have that handy for sort of 10-15 minutes time. If not, you might just need to use another window or something on your device you're currently on. We might just be looking at using something on there. We've allowed 1 to 2 hours for this. We might be done in an hour, we might take the full 2 hours. It really depends on kind of what you want to know and what you want to get out of this and how we can help. So we're happy to take as long or as short as is needed, really, to really have a good session and really answer questions and help with some ideas. Great, sorry, I'm just looking at my session plan. I think first thing we're going to look at is, we've kind of split the session into 2 really. So the first thing is, if you are carrying on Zoom, the things that you can do to carry on those, and maybe give you some new ideas in terms of what you can do on Zoom. So whether that's some new games and things. So it is going to be quite practical. I am going to ask you if you can play along, if we play a game, just play along, because I think we all learn by doing. And I find if you've done it yourself, it's easier then to explain to young people how you do it as well. So please play along if you can.
Nicola, shall we just get everybody else to introduce themselves?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Just so,
yeah.
I don't know everybody who's here today.
Sure. Well, what I was going to ask you to do, if it's all right, is just to take sort of 30 seconds, and if you could put 3 things in the chat for me. So the first thing is your name. The second thing is who you work with. So if you work with young people, where you work with. And the third thing is what you'd like to get out of today. I don't want you to send it just yet, and we're all going to press send all at the same time and come together. So just those 3 things. So your name, kind of the youth group or whoever you work with, and the third thing is something you'd really like to get out of today. So I'll just give a minute for you to do that. Great, and if you're done, press send. Okay, I'm just going to have a look through these and just take a minute yourselves and just have a read through who else we've got in the Zoom call. Great, some really interesting stuff there about kind of some stuff online and some in person. Seems to be some new groups setting up as well, which is really interesting. Brilliant. Brilliant. Great. Super. Well, welcome everyone. So one of the first things we're going to look at is a game called Anyone Who, and it's just a game where if you identify with the phrase, you are going to show your face, and if you don't identify, you don't. So if we just practice, all we're going to do is cover the camera on either your tablet or your laptop, and then if you identify with what I say, you take your hand off. So I'm going to say, for example, anyone who has already got an Easter egg, and so if you already have got an Easter egg, you uncover it. Now clearly there's quite a few of us, which is quite a good thing, apart from when you start and eat them before Easter and you're not meant to, but that's kind of cool. So this is just a really useful game, so I'll just do another one. So cover yourselves up again, and anyone who is really ready for a haircut. Oh, nice mix. Cool, brilliant. So, and if everyone uncovers now, that's just a nice and easy. We found we had a lot of faffing around with cameras and kind of people then turning the cameras off and then couldn't work out how to turn them back on again. So just by covering your camera is a really nice and easy way to kind of navigate those technical issues that we've all suffered with. Another thing we found really popular is like a little scavenger hunt, and who doesn't love a good scavenger hunt? And we've done things like go and find something disgusting or find something delicious or those kind of things, and then we've kind of developed those into like another activity. So whether we've done then I don't know, taking this little house, and that's what I've brought from a scavenger hunt, for example, and then I have to tell a truth and two lies about the object. So I might say, I bought this on a trip to Bruges, and we had a really lovely time, and I saw it in a shop in Bruges and just had to have it. The second thing is that when we moved into this house, the people who lived here before left it as a gift for us for when we moved in. And the third thing is my mother-in-law gave us it and we really don't like it, so we just leave it in here. So then it's just about guessing which one is the truth and which one's the lie. And then sometimes that can lead us into developing stories and narrative in terms of that. So who is the mother-in-law? What's she like? Is she evil? Is she, you know, where does that lead us in terms of story and sort of things like that? And also then you can work out how good your young people are at lying as well, which is sometimes good to know too. So just how one simple thing you can kind of then develop into kind of other little activities as well. Another thing we do is it really depends on our groups as well. We talk a bit about how we're feeling as well at the moment, and we really suss the groups out as to whether we go down that route today, as to where they're at. If they're quite low, we maybe don't go down that route, we maybe talk about the weather or do something else. But if I could ask you just to put something in the chat box for me, which starts with today I'm feeling. So it could be today I'm feeling happy, today I'm feeling tired and I just want to go back to bed. Or so if you could just write that in the chat box for me, that'd be useful just for another little activity.
Where's the chat?
So if you're looking for the chat, it might just be at the bottom. Are you on a laptop or on a tablet or something? It might just be, for me, it's down at the bottom in the middle, but you might have to look in the more bit to get it on a tablet. Oh, Kim, your 9th meeting today, crumbs. That's a toughie. Cool, I think that's about everyone. So sometimes what we do with this is, depending on what we get in the chat box, we call this the chat box poem. And if I'd have said to you, we're going to write a poem, you'd have thought differently about what you put in the chat box. So I'm just going to read you a poem about today. So today I'm feeling ready for an Easter break. I'm feeling sleepy and pretty sick of Zoom calls, but hopeful. I'm feeling happy and excited and busy. This is my 9th meeting today. Feeling the need for a gig. I'm confused. I'm feeling as though I haven't stopped since breakfast and juggling 2 jobs and voluntary work. I'm feeling exhausted following a busy day decorating the youth club. So that's just a little poem that we've made and includes everybody on the call. So well done, everyone. I think that was a really cool poem and just a really simple and easy thing that we can do just to do something different. And who would have thought that sometimes young people, if you said, you know, we're going to write a poem, they'd be like, oh, I can't write poems, I can't do that. And just a simple thing like just saying how we're feeling today can lead us to something. And also it's a really good assessment for you as to where your group are at and how you might need to adjust your plans for your session and things like that. So
that's
a
really Nicola. That's really good. Really like that.
And you can do it in different ways as well. You could it could be I'm looking forward to, or I'm excited about, or any of those things. So sometimes if the energy of my group is really, really low, then I try and look at that kind of opposites. I look at the really positive. I'm really excited to do, or I'm excited for the Easter break because, and then we do a poem like that. And sometimes I'll do something with it and sometimes I don't, because otherwise they expect that we're going to do a poem out of it, and then they get really thinking about what they write in there. So sometimes I do something with it and sometimes I don't. The other thing we quite like doing, and it's just a bit about being a bit physical and a bit silly. So I want you to all kind of go back to being, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old and just being a bit silly for a moment, which as adults I know is quite difficult. So another one we do is called if today was a face, what would the face look like? So if today was a face, my day today, my face would look like that. And so then what we do is we all do that face. So I say it again and then we'll all do it together. So if today was a face, it would look like this. Brilliant. We all do it. And then we then all do the activity. So we also have what we call a safe word. So if you don't feel like you want to share something, so if I ask you to do something and you really don't want to do it, and you really, really don't want to do it, then we say, I'm really sorry, I don't want to do that today. So if I ask you to do something, you don't feel comfortable with it, that's your safe thing. Just say, I'm really sorry, I don't want to do that today. And that's what we do with our young people as well, just so that they know that they're not forced to do something if they don't want to. So I'm going to ask Tom, Tom, if today was a face, what would it look like? Love it. So let's all do Tom's face. If today was a face, today would look like. Love it. And thank you, Tom, for sharing. That was great. And Tony, if today was a face, what would it look like? If we all do it, if today was a face, it would look like. Brilliant. And last one, Tracy, if today was a face, what would it look like? Love it. That's a good one to finish with. Great. Thank you for sharing. That was lovely. I really enjoyed that. So in a second, Detty is just going to pop us in some breakout rooms, and this will give you the chance to kind of get to know the people on the call a little bit better. But I'm also just going to give you a little task to do in your little groups. So you're going to go into groups of 3 or 4. And what I'd like you to do is to come up with a little list of games between you that you've either used or you've seen use on Zoom that you could use again or adapt. And as a secondary kind of question to that, is there anything that might develop into something that's longer than just a game or an activity, in terms of like, is there something that would make a longer session or a scheme of work over a couple of weeks? So first thing is maybe a little game or something that you've used already, and the second thing is something that might last a bit longer. Now after we've done this, we're going to play a little game of Kahoot. So we're going to go out into breakout rooms. I'm going to ask you to feed back if there's anything coming back out of your room. So if you could nominate somebody from your room just to feed back. So it's literally going to be a sort of 5-6 minutes in a breakout room. So how are you getting on, Detty? Are we about there? I think Detty is just first time she's actually managing to do a breakout room. So there we go. We're all going. Fabulous. Well done, Detty.
I've just pressed join and it's not.
Is everybody in them?
Yeah.
Tommy,
No,
you should.
mine wouldn't let me join either.
It said, do I want to join breakout room 3? And I said yes, and then it didn't do anything, and I'm still here. Hello. That was weird.
I don't think.
So are you all in 3 then? I wonder.
I was in 2.
Well, this could just be a breakout room of its own, perhaps.
Yeah.
If-
You're on
if-
you're on mute, Detty.
That'll just mean that there's only 2 though in the other 2. So breakout rooms are closing. Am I able to do them again, Nicola?
Yeah, you should be able to do them again, yeah.
Technology for you, isn't it? When it works, it's amazing.
Sorry guys, there is a bit of a technical issue with the breakout room, so you've probably just been dragged back out of a really nice room where you were just having a really intense conversation back into this, and then we're just gonna shake it all up again. So yeah, see you in the other breakout rooms. So are you setting them up again, Detty? Just saying apologies, we took you out of your breakout rooms, and
It's
Everyone went through a time warp, then, didn't they?
time warp, and they've gone back and come back again.
Keep coming and going.
Hang on a minute. I've got
is that well Kim's still there and Tony's there now, so I don't know why you've not joined. It says you've just not joined.
Well,
I
try joining.
joined and it kicked me out again.
out.
Evicted.
It seems
we'll
to
use-
want to just keep 2 people here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why though. It says all breakout rooms will close in 53 seconds. Will that bring everybody back in again though?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
why? Well, how do I stop it doing that?
I don't know.
You have a timer
there
thing on the side. Isn't there a time? That's only lasted about 2 minutes.
Can you
hasn't it?
cancel it or?
I don't know. It just says all breakout rooms will close, and I don't understand why, because I've never done them before. You see, breakout rooms.
Detty needs Devon, you see. That's
This is-
the
I know,
I
but I'm
know.
not Devon normally, yeah. They're all going to come back in a minute. We might just have to do it together. Because
We'll just have to. I think we'll just have to do it together. I
I think we're just going to have to do it together because I just don't understand. I might just give it one more go.
I blame Tom Hill's face of earlier. That's what did it.
Everybody's
always
coming
goes
back.
nice
Look.
face.
Sorry, guys.
But enough.
Should we just do it in here and then just put your hand up if you've got something that you? Yeah,
Hang on. Where else is everyone else? We've got Gemma,
we've
Amanda,
still
and
got some
Fiona.
coming back, haven't we?
I just
there they
don't,
are.
here we go. They're all coming back again.
Sian. Yeah, they're all
Yeah,
coming
I
back.
don't, I
Sorry,
just don't know
guys.
why it's doing it. I haven't got Devon with me, guys. I have to apologise. I've never done a breakout room. It looked like it would work,
It did look like it would work for you.
and I just
Detty,
don't
but
understand why it doesn't. Yeah.
we celebrated you the how it worked too early, didn't we? So so what we'll do instead then is if you just pop your hand up if you've got some ideas on terms of different games that you've maybe used yourselves.
Yeah, the Zoom
or
game.
different activities, Zoom games. So yeah, so if you've got one, pop your hand up, and then we'll try and come to you. Go on then, Tony. You start us off.
goodness. Well, what I've done with Young People Count at YPC at Pocklington is a 60-second cell. And I was very new to doing anything with the small number of young people, mostly boys, who came onto our session. They've put up with us no end, amazingly. But I came with this idea, which I did at a radio station before, which was, you give them a topic and say you've got 60 seconds up to a clock, informal clock, to talk about it. And hopefully in that time, they won't deviate, speculate, or anything else. Sounds like another game. But they could talk about something. It could be a pet. It could be their favourite part of Pocklington or something like that. And possibly in that time, if they falter, we can start asking them questions about it as well. But normally we give them 60 seconds of airtime to sell whatever they're selling. And they did it really well with pets, with the town, with their favourite Christmas gift and what it's done for their lives, that sort of thing. And actually they enjoyed it because they started suggesting things themselves. So it's just one simple idea, which was based on pretty much an exercise Lynx FM did with 60 seconds to sell an event up against the clock, where you couldn't deviate and mess around, whereas this could give a little bit of flexibility for a bit of fun. It worked well.
I love it, Tony. I've written that down. I think that's great. Happily stolen from you there, Tony. Happily stolen. That's my session plan for tomorrow night done. I'm sorted. Great. Anyone else got a game or something they've done or they've adapted for working online? If not, don't worry. But if you've got something, is that you with your hand up, Jeff?
Yes, I think so. A game that the members that we used to have, we shut down 17th of March last year, haven't reopened, and the members that we did have will now have left. So we're recruiting again, and this is Tipton. But one of the games that the last group really enjoyed, and it was their idea, not ours, was the game called Assassin. I don't know if anybody's aware of it. Yeah, and they really enjoyed it. But in particular, what we found, Sue and myself found really interesting was the discussion part at the end, when they decide between themselves who is the assassin or the policeman or the medic or whatever it is, and how they come about the decisions. And it's getting them to actually discuss and persuade rather than just have a shouting match and, oh, it's him or her. And we find that really good. And most of the time they want to play it 2-3 times a night, so it's a game that they really enjoyed.
And do you give them an assassin before they start so that somebody knows they're an assassin?
Yeah, what we do is they all sit out in a circle, all chairs in a circle, and then they one at a time come up to the table and they choose a card from a list of cards. So there's, because of the size of the group, there's one assassin, one policeman and one medic, and the rest of the people are townspeople. So they take the card, they don't tell anybody else who it is, back to their chairs, and then when everybody's got their persona, whatever, we ask them all to close their eyes so that nobody can see what's going on. We then ask the assassin to open their eyes and point to someone that they want to assassinate, and then close their eyes. Medic, open your eyes, who do you want to save? And close your eyes. And then policeman, who do you think might be the assassin? And close your eyes. And then when they open their eyes, they then have to discuss amongst themselves who they think might be. So the assassin's job, realistically, is to persuade somebody else or the rest of the group that it is somebody else and not them. And that's the main function of it. And so they have that discussion, and then at the end of the discussion, when they're all happy, we then go round in turn and just ask by individual, who do you think this person was? Were they one of the three or just a townsperson? Go all the way around until you've got everybody done. And if somebody said, well, or the group decided that Joe is the assassin, we give Joe an assassin card. And if Mary is the medic or the policewoman or whatever it is, so the three then get a card, and then at the end of that we ask, would the real police person stand up, would the real medic stand up, and then would the real assassin stand up, and then it's a case of, well, how do we come to that? And it forms quite a good discussion at the end of each round, and they thoroughly do it. And it's as simple as that. It takes very little organising, but it can keep a group of 6 to 20 going. The more you've got, the more assassins you could have, or the more medics you could have. and adjust accordingly. So and they play it for as long as they want to play it, and then we move on to something else.
It's a great game. I have played
So
Assassin before, but I've not actually led it, so it's great to hear it from another perspective, and that's great. Thank you ever so much for sharing that, Jeff.
No
It's a
problem.
really good game, and it's a great fun. And then it's all the who you've accused and whether you've rightly or wrongly accused and that kind of thing. I think is a really interesting game as well. So thank you, Kim. You've got your hand up as well. Did you have something to share?
Yes, so I've actually found one of the most effective things that we've done a couple of times in Tyler when we have socialization meetings is show and tell. I know it sounds really simple, but they'll go in, they'll find something that they actually really want to talk about, and they can talk about it for sort of 5-10 minutes at a time. And yeah, it's just worked really, really well. And especially when you've had some new members and things, it's just been kind of a little bit of an easy way of getting them involved. Especially when it's online.
I think it's a really nice thing and a really lovely way as well for them to share things that they naturally would do if you were in the room. They'd naturally tell you those things, they naturally do those things. So it's just another way of doing that online, and children love nothing more than sharing or telling you about that their hamster's had a baby or all of those things, isn't it? So yeah, I think sometimes it's just reminding yourself of the importance of those simple things as well. So that's great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else got anything? Cool. Well, if a thought comes to mind as we carry on, then feel free to pop your hand up or pop it in the chat or anything like that. Can I just have a quick show of hands? Has anyone used Kahoot before with young people? Put your hand up if you have. Oh, okay. Okay, this is cool. I love Kahoot. Sometimes they use it in schools, and we use it, and Dara and I were talking earlier because we use it for like quizzes and stuff like that, and it's really handy as well if you're doing like a virtual pub quiz with friends as well. So it's really handy for your work with young people, but obviously really handy as well for other family quizzes and things like that as well. So it's just basically an online way of doing a quiz where it's quite interactive. And you can also use it for doing consultations. So sometimes we'll use it to ask a question, and they can just quite anonymously put something, and then we get an idea of what they think about a specific thing. So without further ado, I will start. So just give me 1 sec and I will start. So if you've got another device, that would be really handy. So grab another device, and if you could go to Kahoot.it, and Kahoot is spelled KAHOOT.it. I'm just going to share my screen so you can see. So once you've got to Kahoot.it, if you enter this pin into Kahoot.it, and then you'll see yourself start and pop up on the screen. So you've got to maybe give yourself a really silly name, or you can give yourself your normal name or whatever. Brill.
Sorry, what was the pin or whatever?
So if you go to Kahoot.it,
yeah, got that.
So my apologies if you can hear the dodgy music that it kind of puts out with it as well. It's not my choosing.
Yeah, I've got there.
You've got there?
And it's asking for a game pin.
Yeah, so if you put in 866 3809.
Sorry, you went all funny there. 38.
Yeah, 866 3809.
Yeah. Enter.
And then it'll ask you to put a name in or something. Are you in?
Yep.
Great. I think that is roughly everybody. I can't quite tell. Okay, I've literally done 3 questions. I normally do 10, 15, 20, depending on. So we start. So basically, you're going to get like a multiple choice, and you can then choose the answer for those. So here we go. First question is, So what is the name of this character from Line of Duty? So you should have the options, you should be able to touch the answer. If you don't watch Line of Duty, just take a really random guess, it really doesn't matter.
And it started again. Dun,
I
dun,
know, I
dun.
love Line of Duty.
I love Line of Duty. Yeah, I know, it's really cool.
You've got about 5 seconds left to get your answers in. Brilliant. So we had 1 guess at Steve Arnott, 3 I think at Danny Walden, and 6 at Ted Hastings, and it was Ted Hastings, so well done. For those of you who watched Line of Duty and knew it was Ted. Brilliant. So next question. So it's going to give us, there is the scores on the dot. So Detty was fastest finger first. Well done, Detty. Super work there. Excellent. So Youngblood, where was Youngblood born? So Youngblood is an artist that our young people really, really like. Was he born in London, Doncaster in Wales, Doncaster in England, or Sydney, Australia? If you don't know, take a really random guess. It really doesn't matter. It's more of just about showing you how it works, really. So 4 think London, 2 think Doncaster in Wales, 3 think Doncaster in England, and 1 Sydney, Australia. And it was Doncaster, England, which really surprised me at how close Youngblood actually, where we was born to here, is really quite interesting.
Tell by
So
his
cool.
accent. Sorry.
It's Youngblood's cool, isn't he?
I'm gonna say you can tell by his accent.
Yeah, yeah. So Radio Man, fastest finger first on that one. Well done.
Is that you, Tony Barker?
Gemma wasn't far behind there by the look of it, so well done, Gemma, too. Great. And just the last question. This is just one we ask our group. So we've been developing a new song. So this is just choose any of these. And what you do with this one is I've just done all of the answers are the right answer, and then I can tell which song title the young people like, because they do like to procrastinate about things. So if we can just quickly get them to make a decision on something. So do we want to call our new song Video Games and Schoolwork, Life of Legends, Times of Fun, or Colours? So that's it. And it's just an anonymous way that they can vote on stuff.
So this would be excellent for consultation questions, wouldn't it? To do together.
Exactly that. So then it just gives you like a podium thing. So if you've done a quiz, then it's really nice that they can see who's come first. So it's Radio Man. Well done.
Rightly so too. What's the prize?
Sadly, just the attendance. Just the attendance this evening. But that's prize enough.
Pleasure of our company. Pleasure
I
of our
demand the recount.
So but I've kind of brought that one in because that's a really useful one that you can use either on Zoom or again when you're working socially distantly with young people. They've usually got a phone or a tablet or something, and you can get on the Wi-Fi. You know, you just need a laptop in the corner, ask the questions, and they can be socially distantly playing along, or like Detty says, you know, doing a bit of consultation. And it's just quite fun as well. They like the fact it adds up. If you pay for the premium account, you can add video clips and music clips and kind of stuff like that. You can get more advanced as you go, but just as a really simple thing, just to do a quiz.
Just to say, Nicola, as well, but there are quizzes on there already, isn't there?
Yeah, one of those, the Line of Duty one was one.
Yeah, you can
just put add slide, can't you?
Yeah, and then you just get them, and they're dead easy to use. But literally, I used it about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was child's play to do. It's really easy to use, and I'm not very good on tech, so it's dead easy to use for everyone. Thanks, Nicola.
Yeah, so yeah, like Darren says, you can just nip and put a slide, and it'll just say like, and you can search, like I just searched Line of Duty, so that just created that slide. I didn't really even need to do anything for that. So if you know what music you young people are interested in, we've sometimes at the beginning of term with our music group, if we ask them what music they'd like to play, then we curate a list, and usually the end of term quiz is based on that list that we created at the beginning of term. So I go back to that list and then find some music from that person and say, you know, who was this by, or what was this from, or what's this lyric from, and I dig into that a little bit, because then I know it's really relevant because they've come up with the ideas in the first place. So the next thing I was just going to touch upon is just to find out a little bit more about kind of schemes of work, longer schemes of work, and how that might work. I know that our youth theatre worked on an online murder mystery on Zoom because it was just the easiest way that they could work on their own and developing story. And some of that is really going to help us when we come to meeting in person as well, that we can continue to develop those story narratives as well. We've done like end of term where you get dressed up. If we're having a last session before we're taking a break for a bit, we've done like a dress up thing. We've watched film clips and trailers and kind of decided when we first can go back to the cinema, what would be the film we'd go and see. We've done jukebox where we've watched music videos and decided which things we'd like to play or do together when we can get back in a room. And we work also with children as young as 5. And the one thing we realised quite recently was using kind of Zoom and the cameras and things to make puppet shows. So almost like this is your puppet booth. So if you duck down below, you can use your puppets up above. And the real younger children have really, really enjoyed kind of the craft making of some puppets, as well as then kind of using this area to be able to kind of duck down and put the puppets up and things. I've also experimented a bit with like hand shadows and light sources and making shadows on walls and things like that and showing each other those as well. So really try to be a bit inventive with kind of creating stuff with those as well. So just to give you some ideas that it's not always just about the games, it can be about kind of planning in longer term things as well. And sort of thinking now going into that kind of section of we're thinking about getting back into the room with people. A question I was asked the other day was, what do you think to, because some of our young people still want to meet online. A lot of our young people really, really want to get back in a room. And somebody said, you know, should we look at doing like a half Zoom, half in-person session? And actually that is something we did try to do kind of last October when we were able to get back in the room for a little bit. And just found it really difficult. And I just wondered if anybody else on this call had done anything similar and tried to do something where it was half on Zoom and half in person. Has anyone tried that? No, we just found it really difficult in that it almost needed just one person at the laptop and then still the person in the room, because it felt like we were trying to split ourselves in two by trying to deliver to the people in the room as well as deliver something meaningful to the people on Zoom as well. And I think we just arrived at the idea of it was probably better to do one or the other, or if some people are really uncomfortable still, that we could do a week in person and then a week online and a week in person and a week online, and maybe look at doing something like that rather than trying to kind of work our way through how it might work doing them both. So yeah, that was just a thought I'd put in there.
I wonder whether it's a bit like that with the schools, because obviously schools have been delivering to young people all throughout this pandemic, to vulnerable groups of young people, and children are key workers as well, and yet they've still got to do that balance with the Zoom and the online. So it might be, if people wanted to explore that, it might be worth speaking to some of the schools to see what lessons they've learned in delivering that kind of thing, and just getting some kind of, you know, ideas from them, because I'm sure they've tried all sorts of different ways of doing it. Because I can completely see where you're coming from there, Nicola. I think it must be really difficult to do that.
That's a really good idea, to go into the schools and maybe asking and stuff. I hadn't thought about that. So yeah, it's a really good suggestion. I think I might look into that a little bit further. So thinking about kind of going back in the room, I've kind of split this into, I suppose, two little sections in thinking about working outdoors and then working in a room, because I saw those as two kind of separate things really. And I don't know what settings you were all from as well, in terms of whether you were building based or outdoor based anyway. But yeah, just that idea of traditionally my groups all run in a building inside a room, and actually I think what kind of being on Zoom has taught us is about how resourceful we have to be and how resourceful we have become, and thinking particularly about when we were doing our murder mystery online, we were looking into the venues and kind of places where our murder might take place, And one of the places we were talking about was in Gould, there was a workhouse, and quite a lot of the young people were like, well, where was the workhouse? And so they didn't actually know where it was. So we've talked about the idea, and kind of something Tony said earlier as well kind of refers into this a little bit, about kind of doing a walking tour of the town and kind of taking in, you know, the different places in the town and where different things were in the past. And just that idea of that being outdoors and socially distant, and we can stay in a group, and maybe that's a little bit safer for some. And I know that my group really love ghost stories and zombies and all of that kind of thing as well. So I definitely know that once we've started that could either go down the route of kind of creating false ghost stories that we could create in certain locations in the town, almost like if you were taking a ghost hunt and then all these characters appeared, and that could be done quite socially distantly. And I quite like that idea, or zombies coming out of different side streets and stuff. I'm sure we might get in loads of trouble for it, but I'm sure it'd be great.
Can I just add, obviously with the new kind of rules next week from Monday the 29th, you are not restricted to numbers outside, and it is just more about those normal safeguards you would do in terms of staff to young people's ratios and maintaining COVID safety. But you know, people were saying, could we go out with 30 young people for a walk? Yes, that would be fine, you know, all those kinds of things. So I think something like you've just been saying, like a ghost trail or an outside nature trail, something like that would be absolutely fine from next Monday. And they don't have to be vulnerable groups, young people, these are just young people, any young people from next week outside.
That's great. And I think, yeah, just that idea of then we don't always have to be building based. And then again, sort of thinking about that when Tony had said about earlier about the 60-second pitch, what's great about the town or anything like that, you know, kind of maybe imagining that you're creating a tourist trail for your own town. Where are the places that people should come and visit when they come to your town? Where are the places you should take them? That kind of thing, and kind of almost re-exploring your own, the place where you live and the bits you're proud of. And I think what could be quite interesting about that is the places that young people think, the places I might think might not be the places young people think. So that could be quite interesting.
Just to add to that, Nicola, I think you could ask the young people, certainly if you're doing detached work and that, or working with targeted people, you could be asking the young people to say the areas where it's not so good to go in their towns. So, you know, it raises your awareness as well, and their peers as well.
Exactly, that's a really nice thing. And again, you could lead that on into something like, you know, where are the areas you think need improvement in the town, or take some pictures, kind of develop that and kind of see where that goes, and the things that they see we don't see perhaps might be a really interesting thing. So I think it's just about thinking creatively. Is there any other ideas about kind of doing stuff outdoors, what you might do? You know, pop your hand up or suggest something if you've got any ideas.
I mean, I just kind of think building on from that in terms of my development ahead, you know, and things like active witnessy, Louise, I'm thinking about, you know, you could go out with young people, they could, and like Darren says, they could share what they like, what needs to be improved, how they could get involved in doing that. So that's a bit of social action. So they could link with other partners. You know, we could look at sort of, you know, creating new resources, new spaces for them, which is something that they're all really keen to be looking at, how we can have, how they can have, you know, more safe places to go with their friends, particularly now after the last 12 months. So something like that would help us all identify that and work together with the young people to put things in place, really.
Definitely, and I think what Darren's just given us is the perfect title for that project, which is called The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. And I think that's a really nice thing about your town. What's the good, the bad and the ugly about the town? I think that's really interesting. And I think as well, I don't know what settings we're all from. I mean, at Junction, we're funded by the town council, so we've got a direct line into our council and our members. But what would be great would be for our young people to go out and do something like that and actually attend one of our council meetings and just say, this is what we think of our town, and kind of be able to take that back. So already between us, we've got like a really cool project there potentially just out of thinking about what we might do outside and stuff. So I think that's lovely. Just another quick thing on outdoors before we move indoors is at Junction we're currently creating a project using an app called What 3 Words, and I don't know if many of you or all of you know what 3 words is, but I'll just describe it just so if you're not sure. So What 3 Words is basically an app that was developed by the emergency services, so that if you got lost somewhere, they would use the What 3 Words to locate you, because every 3 meter squared across the globe has 3 unique words. So it might be bucket, table, orange, or something like that. And those 3 words then locate you to a 3 meter square. So they've actually found people in shipping containers who have been lost. And sometimes if you call the emergency services and you say, I'm lost somewhere, they'll say, download the app and tell us the 3 words from where you are and we will come and find you. So for mountaineers and stuff like that, it's been really, really useful. So what we've decided to do is to look at using that app and getting people more confident in going outside, and looking at 3 words for a public place that they really like going to, and using the 3 words as an artistic response. So whether you stand at that place, you take the 3 words and that inspires some kind of visual painting, a poem, lyrics for a song, a dance, you know, whatever that is, and using the app as a stimulus for that. But just a kind of little word of warning is just being really aware that the What 3 Words can locate you. So don't let young people put out their 3 words from their home. That's why we're always trying to make sure it's in the public environment. So we've been looking at, like, what are the 3 words on the stage at Junction? What are the 3 words from the school playground at one of the primary schools? What are the 3 words at the pavilion in West Park? What are the 3 words in the precinct? What are the 3 words from down by the riverbank, you know, those kind of things. So just using that as a response. But I don't know if that's useful for creating a treasure hunt or a trail or kind of anything like that, but just a really nice idea. And how we're developing that into our second phase is we're going to have some mystery squares appearing across school that are the 3 marked out. And shush, Tom, you're not allowed to tell anyone. So the 3 marked out 3 meter squares, and in some of those is going to appear a QR code. And so we will then release information that there is a square appeared, and go and find the square and scan the QR code and something will happen. And that's all I'm saying for now. And I will send you more information as that evolves. So, but the first phase is that you find your 3 words and you send an artistic response. So I'll send Detty the information as the project launches in the next couple of weeks, and feel free to send your artistic responses to 3 words in your areas as well. That would be lovely. But yeah, I don't know whether that works for anyone else to create something or do something, but just an idea for working outside as well.
Can I just say that, Nicola? Oh, sorry, Jeff. After you, Jeff.
That's all right. No, that's fine. When we've taken the members away for a weekend or a day trip, something like that, we've got them involved in geocaching.
Oh, yes.
You know, and they've thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, it's good. It gets them out. It gets them to read a map. It gets them to read a compass, and check and actually use their eyes, you know, to see something that's not quite right where the cache is hidden, rather than just glancing at a fence. Yeah, but that fence is not quite right because there's something hidden on it, and it's surprising what you can actually look at and not see. And this helps to sort of it gets them outside for a start, but also it's useful for the map reading, for the terrain, you know, being aware of what the terrain is if you're out on the moor or something like that, and the, you know, the potential dangers of sort of stepping off the path, and you know, it can be quite useful for an outdoor activity.
I think that was what I was gonna. I mean, it actually relates a lot to that as well, Jeff. I was really interested in the safety aspect of it for young people to understand what 3 words actually is for. And I think the same with the geocaching that you've just said there, Jeff. It teaches them something about keeping safe, doesn't it? How to, you know, locate themselves, how to read maps, how to understand terrain and the dangers. And I think those kind of things are really important for young people. So if we can build them messages into fun activities, it's really, really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. And Darren, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, you've got the chance next week to be outside, and I know the forecast is wet, but you've still got a chance to do loads of fun activities, you know, especially for the first few sessions you're meeting with young people. And I always think back to youth club days of when you haven't seen them for 6 weeks in summer holidays, when if you used to have to shut, because we used to be on school sites, we had to shut, etc. Oh, and I was thinking of, you know, like I know Amanda last year when it first started back, you did the inflatable things. I can't remember what they're called, Amanda. Inflatable things you used to ride again. They were big in the 70s. What were they called, Amanda? Help me out. Used to sit on it.
Space hoppers, surely.
Space hoppers. That's one. Thank you. Space hoppers. Yeah,
Yeah.
the space hoppers, and they used it. And you set up. Yeah, you
Yeah.
set up like a Grand National course, didn't you? You know what I mean, for them to an obstacle course to do and things like that. But another one. Sorry, Amanda, go on.
We did it in the local park in Hornsey, and which helped because it was completely socially distanced activity as well, and we advanced it onto blindfolded space hopper races, that was immensely interesting. No one was injured at all. Much credit to our young people. But yeah, they absolutely loved it. We've got 4 space hoppers, and we're ordering another 2 because we, you know, we'll definitely be using them. It was one of the most popular activities that we put out there last summer. So yeah, I'm really sorry, guys. I've got to go.
Thank you, Amanda.
My Tesco delivery's just arrived.
Thanks.
Don't worry, Amanda.
Bye.
Thanks for sharing. Love the space hoppers. Keep up the great work.
I'll just share another one as well. Can you remember on TV they used to do a total whiteout game? Where, you know, I mean, you see the inflatable called Total Wipeout as well. You can do that just with an old piece of rope, a pair of, not a pair of tights, one leg of a tight filled with flour, because that stops people cheating. Because you get hit with a flour, you're marked. You can't say you jumped it because you didn't. You're covered in flour, and it's what you got. You just literally get somebody standing in the middle, literally just getting it higher and higher, and the kids have to jump over it. It's great fun. I've done it at loads of youth clubs, but for outside, it's really easy to do, and it's good because you don't have to sweep up the flour afterwards, because it's a pain in the backside to sweep up and mop flour up afterwards. Outside on the field, it's a great one, and the youngsters love it. And I think if you ask the youngsters, you know, what other fun activities they can come up with, they've always devised games. I mean, when we did detached, we did litter picking. We were litter picking, and they devised a game with litter pickers and bottles to see if they could catch them. So they were throwing literally half-empty bottles of water towards each other and trying to catch them with litter pickers. And then, well, I can't do it. It's a bit like, you know, trying to get a what do you call it, you know, a fly with chopsticks. But the youngsters invented this game themselves, and it came to be one of our detached street games. You know, when we came, whenever we went there, but we'll do litter picking, but keep a bottle, because we'll see if we can get, you know, I mean, catch one. So it's an easy thing, and youngsters come up with that thing. You know, if you give them a load of pieces of equipment, they'll come up with some really proactive sort of fun games as well.
I love that. I love how inventive young people are as well, just that how they adapt stuff and how they can kind of change. And I love the space hopper thing as well. And I think as well, just kind of as we segue back into that kind of going into buildings and stuff, you know, that whole idea of something that's really easy to clean, so you can easily sanitize it between sessions or stuff like that. And a space hopper is absolutely ideal for that. You can just really get an antibacterial wipe over it, and then somebody else can use it and stuff. So that's a really cool thing. And kind of thinking about that, when our youth theatre got back in the room last autumn, bearing in mind, like I said, we've got real little ones who are like 5 or 6 years old, and I was just so worried about them coming really close to each other without thinking about it, and because of their age, and because there's only so much you can explain to them at that age. You know, the older ones tend to understand a little bit more, and we actually bought some hula hoops, so as they walked into the room, there were hula hoops kind of across the room, and they just had to choose a colour hula hoop and go and stand in it. And then when we did the running around games of Sharky or what other games they like to play, the idea was, right, okay, pick up your hula hoop and run with your hula hoop. So then we knew that there would be some amount of distance between them. And that really helped them. And after a couple of weeks, and we only really got a couple of weeks back in the room, we didn't need to use the hula hoops anymore. They'd kind of got the idea of kind of keeping away from each other, and they knew they had to do it. So we just sort of said, right, imagine you've got your hula hoop and we're going to run now, and we're going to play this game, we're going to do this. And they really kind of got the idea of doing that. But again, hula hoops are really easy to clean between our sessions, because we do a couple of sessions back to back. So we're just able to anti-back them, and then they were ready for that. But we're able to, I mean, we'll use them loads in the future. They're just super useful things to have around anyway. And also great just to have a go at hula hooping or embarrassing yourself by not being able to do it in front of a group of young people, which is not good. And just great to just kind of put in the corner and just say, right, and put your stuff in the hula hoop, and then just keep your bags over there, sort of thing, and separate. So that was just one thing we found useful. I thought I'd share. Has anyone else got anything they'd like to share of that they found, if you've managed to do anything during COVID with young people, and how you've managed to do something and keep them safe?
At Castile, we did the same thing, Nicola. Elle used, I don't know if she stole it off you or you stole it off her, but I just had the same idea. But yeah, she bought loads of hula hoops, and we did the same thing for the youth theatre. For the music session, that was a bit easier because we set out music zones, and everyone kind of just sat near their own instrument, and that was quite easy to place them 2 meters apart, because especially if you've got a massive keyboard, it's pretty much already 2 meters up. You can't really put it too close to something else. Yeah, that's what we did for the limited time that we were back in the building, for like the 4 or 5 sessions we were there. Yeah, it was easy, and like you say, it was easy for the older ones. Some of the younger ones, you have to keep reminding, and it's hard to fully explain. Yeah, that's the tricky bit, isn't it, sometimes?
This is it, and it's hard to know as to how much we're going to have to do that again in the future, as to how far apart we're going to have to keep. But like you say, if you've got physical barriers, like you've got, like if you've got musical instruments like drum kits, that's great, because once they're behind there, they're not moving anywhere, or plugged into a bass amp, they're literally going to be within about a meter of there, because that's about the cable length or whatever you say. So yeah, all of those things are kind of really useful. And again, it's just that, like, using your Kahoot quizzes, and we found it's been really useful to think about kind of games we used to play as children and adapting those, like Grandma's Footsteps or something like that, so you don't actually need to touch somebody at the end. That we had a bottle, and you just had to kick over the bottle, so you didn't need to touch anybody, and just stuff like that. So I think it's just using stuff that you normally would and adapting it that way. Yeah, so I think that's it in terms of kind of games, and I haven't really got any suggestions for kind of how you might progress that to kind of longer term schemes of work, because I don't feel like I've had my young people back in the room long enough to know how that might develop. And I always like to take the steer from the young people as to what they want to do. And I feel like they just want to get back in the room. They just want to be with their friends. They just want to scream and shout, play an instrument, that kind of thing. So until I've got them back in the room, I don't know what they're going to want to do. So I'll get them back in the room and see what they want to do longer term. But I suppose now it's just out to questions from you. If there's anything you'd like to ask about safety, about getting young people back in the room, or anything else you want to ask, and then we'll probably wrap up in a few minutes, 5-10 minutes. So I don't know if you've got any specific questions that you had in your mind when you came on that you'd like to ask.
Would people be interested in doing this again in a few weeks? I think just before the next stage of lockdown. I'm thinking maybe just after Easter, or towards the end of April, beginning of May, because I think there's the 12th of April is a key date, and then there's the 17th of May, which is I think that'll be a really key date, the 17th of May. I think there's going to be a lot of progress then. And we could explore some further ideas depending on where we are, if people think that would be really, a good idea.
I know that we're waiting for the 12th of April. We're hoping to get people back in the room 2 weeks after that. So I think it's week commencing the 20-something. We're looking at kind of getting our young people back in the room again. So I think maybe something around the 12th, Detty, might be useful, because then anything that comes up, then we've got time to embed that in our planning.
Great stuff. So maybe, I get back on the 12th. So maybe if we look at the week after, Would that be okay? And we'll set something up again, just looking at an hour to an hour and a half, and we can explore where we're at. And people, like you say, Nicole, have started to do more activities, and that might have kind of made them think about new questions, different things, or have different ideas, and see how the young people are feeling as well. Because I think there's going to be a lot of anxiety from young people about getting back in the room themselves, and being, as much as they want to do it, some of them are a little bit kind of worried because they've not done it for such a long time, and especially with all the, if they haven't been going to school for very long, and then obviously some have gone and then they're back at home again because there's been an outbreak, you know. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they get on with being back in the room. Yeah.
And we might have some templates for risk assessments and stuff like that. Might be really handy at that point as well, if that's useful to share kind of what other people, there's no point in everyone reinventing the wheel. If somebody's already done the legwork on it, we may as well kind of share that around a little bit. That's
for sure. Yeah, and as we said earlier, the NYA have got their latest webinar out. It's on the YouTube. You can just Google NYA YouTube and it'll bring it up. They've got their COVID guidance. They're tweaking it again at the end of the week, but just the minor change about numbers outside starting next week. So have a look at that, and bearing that in mind when you're planning your own sessions, really. I think that's a really good thing to do.
And by somewhere like the 19th, we'll have had another NYA webinar as well, so we'll know more again by then as to what we can and can't do, and then we can, I'm sure between all of us, we can devise some really fun, creative stuff. I think we've already got a big outdoor project that's going to be going on across the whole of the East Riding. What was the title again, Darren? The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, something like that. I quite like that.
No, that's not mine, by the way. I will admit that came from NCS. They used to use it when they started doing their social action projects. So, you know, I mean, it's I've just borrowed it.
Yes, they did, didn't they?
I did, yeah.
Because one of our young people didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit contentious, I think, sometimes, but yeah.
But it was a good way to get young people to go out there and map their local area and actually say, you know, this is what we like and this is what we don't like and this is what needs, you know, the damn back, the ugly things was, you know, it's ugly, but, you know, can they pull it down or can they regenerate it, you know, and you feed it to local councils and stuff. So it was a good exercise, you know, and I think could still work, just modify it.
Great stuff.
Right. Has anyone got any questions or anything just before we start and wrap up? You're all very quiet. I'm not used to this at all. I'm used to my rowdy lot who just talk loads, and I don't know what I'm going to do when we're back in the room and I don't have a mute button and I can't just go, okay, everyone shush. Mute.
You're gonna have to buy gags, Nicola.
I'll just go shh. Yeah.
What they do at guides, which is really good, I've always liked it, is they just put their hands up, don't they? One of the leaders will put their hands up, and then all the hands will go up, and everybody goes really quiet. Have you seen them do that? It's fabulous. They do
it in a lot of schools, don't they? They teach us down there. Yeah, they do.
And they just put a hand up. I'd never seen it before the guides did it, and I was like, oh, suddenly it went really quiet. I was like, that's great.
I think it's really handy as well. Like when we're Tom will probably find this when we're working with the musicians as well. So many times you're trying to explain something when you're in the room with your musicians and you've got somebody trying to tune up, and you put a drummer in front of a drum kit, you know, they're not gonna not just sit there very politely and not drum. They just start and tap with that, and you're like, I just need to explain this little thing and then we can play as much as. So actually just being on Zoom has just been quite quiet and peaceful in some ways.
Yeah.
It's been.
We put chairs in front of instruments for that reason. When we're talking, we sit on chairs in front of instruments. Otherwise, I know how, if I was playing an instrument and someone was talking to me, the first thing I'd do is just play it's impossible. If you put a drum in front of somebody and then ask them not to play, that's like a form of torture. That's cruel. You need to.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'd lost like 10 seconds before I had to do something on it. So that's what we do. Yeah.
I'm stealing that, Tom. I'm so having that. Yeah. You can't just say, okay, everyone mute and we'll just tune up now. It's good. It's going to be that lovely noise. But I'll so welcome that noisy rabble again when we can have it. I'll just be like, yeah, tune up and make as much noise as you want. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's Rock was great. I didn't know you guys. Sorry, that's off topic now a little bit, isn't it? Yeah, I didn't know you guys were at Let's Rock this year. I didn't know Junction was submitting anything, but it was great to see some of your guys there.
Yeah, I loved your piece as well. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I thought it was a great one. And we've got some of yours in our digital platform on Saturday. We've got a digital platform, big plug, on Saturday. If you check out Junction social media, we've got all of our groups have been working in lockdown on some videos and pieces. So and Cassia are involved in that as well. So we've got some really nice performances. Yeah, I'll share.
And we'll put it out through our networks and things and on our social media. That'll be no problem.
Well, I'll share that and have a look. But my email address was on the original link for the for this session. So if you've got any questions that kind of occur to you after now, feel free, drop me a line. I have got a little bit of time off over the next couple of weeks, a few days here and there, but I will get back to you. So if I don't come back immediately, I will come back to you. But if you've got any questions, yeah, please drop me a line. I'll try my best to answer, and hopefully look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks when we might know a little bit more about what we can do and not do. But I suppose in the meantime, stay safe, look after yourselves.
And can I just say thank you, Nicola, for being a fabulous hostess with the mostess for today, because I think you've done a sterling job. I think, you know, there's been some fantastic ideas shared, and you've really, you know, shared this really well as a session. So thank you very much for that.
Well done, Nicola. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you. Well, have a lovely rest of evening and stay safe, and I'll see you all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah.